When I was in middle school, my friend had come over to hang out like he did most Saturdays. He was one of my best friends, and both of us were pretty observant of our surroundings, so whenever something weird came up, we would point it out to each other pretty quickly. At the time, my sister had this small, realistic baby doll that could walk on all fours on its own if it had batteries. I never personally had taken much note of it, other than the fact I thought it was neat that it could blink if you tilted it the right way. One day when we entered the playroom of my house, we found the doll centered in the room. Again, at the time, we didn't think much of it, since I had seen it many times with no issue. I did have a glancing thought that it was weird it had been taken out when my sister hadn't played with it in years. Otherwise, I just threw it hardly against the wall so that it would bank off into the nearby toy crate we had. My friend, who we will call Jay, tended to like to switch between playing outside and inside the house, so we went outside for a bit. Everything was fine and normal until we came back into the house. Jay stood stunned for a number of seconds when we entered the hallway leading to the playroom. I quickly followed his eyes to see the electronic doll crawling down the hallway in a straight line towards us. It was made to do this as the toy's main function, but because of its age and rough play, it sort of hobbled back and forth while approaching from the end of the hall. I looked at him, and we both had the same immediate thought that it was my sister. This had to be the case, because it wouldn't have been able to move using the old acid-leaking AA batteries it had inside. We both walked forward and grabbed the doll, causing it to make the squeeze-activated crying sound it makes. We called out for my sister, but with no response. Confused, we looked all around the house for her. It turned out she was still asleep and had been nowhere near the doll all day. I would like to note that my family is not the kind to prank each other, especially not with freaky things like dolls. With this, Jay and I started to get a little freaked out, so we put the doll carefully under a bunch of toys in the playroom and left it. We didn't have any issues for the next few weeks of playing. One weekend, however, he and I were sitting at my family's dining room table. He was sitting across from me. Behind me was our living room, which had some couches and 2 giant bookcases. As I was talking with him, while he was taking a sip of his soda, he suddenly spit the drink all over the table. This was obviously surprising for me, especially because he was pretty calm and mean unusually. I asked him what happened, and he just silently pointed behind me. I turned to look around and froze when I saw that doll sitting on top of one of the bookcases, a good distance behind me, facing us. We both sprinted to my mother, who was outside at the time, and asked her if she had put it up there. Note that neither me nor my friend could have ever reached the top where the doll was, as the bookshelves were almost twice our full height. We were both horrified when she asked us what doll we were talking about. Now, seeing as none of my family would prank us, and my father was not home ever, and my friend and I did not pull pranks on each other, we both started freaking out. There was something not right about this doll. We asked my mother to get it for us, after which we took it to our garbage cans way outside the front of the house on my family's farming property. For a number of weeks, that was the end of it. We started to forget about it, until one morning I woke up on a weekend without my friend being over. I had idly considered a couple of times if it had been Jay who put the doll in those spots, but this morning proved that theory false. I walked into the kitchen, which had a glass door to the front porch connected to it. I couldn't move when I saw it. Outside, stuck halfway down the walkway, leading to the glass doors, was the doll, positioned, as though it had been crawling towards the door with its face against the ground. I told my mother about everything Jay and I had experienced. She is a religious woman who isn't really scared of much, but dolls are something that she isn't super comfortable with for some unspoken reason. She immediately went outside, took the doll, and said she'd take care of it. I asked her later what she did with it, and she said she waited for it to dry since it had been rained on and soaked through to its mostly fabric center, and then burned it, tossing the plastic and electronic remains in the bin. We never had any more experiences with the doll, but I still wonder to this day what could have possibly done that if not for any of my family members. I once took a road trip from New Hampshire to Florida. I had to stop at a hotel to sleep overnight when I was about halfway there. It was some old, somewhat dilapidated hotel that rested off the highway on a quiet road. There were like 2 cars in the parking lot, so there were definitely not a lot of guests. The lady at the front desk was very robotic and seemed bored with her job. She seemed to fit the atmosphere of the hotel perfectly. The lobby was full of tacky chairs and tables you'd expect to find put out on the curb. The wallpapers were all dated and equally tacky. It did matter, though. I wasn't staying there for the luxury, just for the night and for the convenience. It was late when I checked in, so when I got in the room, all I did was take out my toothbrush and tried to go to sleep, not looking forward to the long day of driving I had ahead of me the next day. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I looked at the bedside clock to be sure that it was almost midnight. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. Apparently, the peephole didn't work, though, because I couldn't see out into the hallway through it. All I saw was black. I looked down at the crack under the door but didn't see any outlines of feet blocking the light, so I opened the door just a little bit to peek into the hallway. I didn't see anyone standing in front of the door. I opened it fully and then peeked down both sides of the hallway. It was clear. So I had to suddenly question if someone in this relatively vacant hotel was pranking me. I shut the door, locked it with the bolt this time, went to lay back down in the bed. But then it happened again. A knock at the door. This time I jumped out of the bed, ran to the door and checked the peephole again. Shockingly, all I saw was the empty hallway outside. But it hit me. This time I could actually see through the peephole. I unbolted the door and opened it. No one. I looked down both sides of the hallway again and there was no one. This was where I drew the line. I grabbed the key to the room and went to the lady at the front desk. I told her someone kept knocking on my door and politely asked her to check the cameras to see who it could be. She said they didn't have cameras in the hallways. Her reaction also wasn't what I was hoping for. She seemed very calm and disconcerted with what I told her. She said in a calm voice there was only one other guest in the whole building. Then she just stared blankly at me. I'm not sure how she thought her response properly acknowledged my concern or what she expected me to say, but I could tell she wouldn't be of any help with the matter. So I left her and went back to my room, locked the door with the bolt again. This time I put on my headphones and put on one of those 10-hour sleep relaxation videos on YouTube. This would not only help me get to sleep, but block out any possible future sounds from whoever was deciding to mess with me. And it worked. For a while at least. Eventually I flipped from my side to my back and just looked around the room. My head froze when I was staring at the corner. I sat up to try to get a closer look at what I thought I was seeing. I swear, it looked like a giant humanoid figure, like a 10-foot-tall human standing right in the corner, head to the ceiling. When I put that image together in my head, I felt a sudden rush of horror in my body. I jumped across the bed to flick on the lamp. But when the room lit up, there was nothing in that corner of the room. Simply sat there with my heart beating probably 200 beats per minute. I gave myself a couple minutes to calm down before shutting the light back off and laying back down on my side. I still had the headphones in my ears playing the relaxation video. It helped calm me down a little bit. I didn't last even 2 minutes without sitting back up and examining the room again, however. And there it was, in the corner. What looked to be a 10-foot-tall humanoid figure. I crawled to the edge of the bed to get as close a look as I could before practically shitting myself. I saw what I was sure was a long arm at the side moving. I dove to turn on the lamp again, and the corner was empty again. I didn't stick around that time. I packed up my few things in a matter of seconds and left the room. I gave the key to the woman and said, "I'm checking out early." She didn't even say a word as I stormed out that front door of the hotel. I continued driving until I found another hotel where I fell fast asleep with no supernatural disturbances. I work as a construction worker in the city, and I go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week on top of it. So depending on the projects we're working on at work, when I get home, I'm ready to collapse on a couch. After work and the gym one night, I stopped for food on the way home because there was no way on earth I was about to cook. I was shot. I got home and plopped a Chipotle I just bought on the ottoman in my living room, and I just laid out on the couch as I ate. This was later in the week, so I was already tiring out. I was honestly so tired that I actually fell asleep on the couch while watching TV. I woke up a few hours later, realizing it was like 11 o'clock at night. I was so comfortable on the couch under the blanket, honestly, that I didn't want to get up. But I realized I left my contacts in, so I went to the bathroom to take them out. And at that point, I went to my bedroom to just go to sleep in my actual bed. Walking to my room, I heard my name called from the living room. All I could think was, what the actual fuck? It was a female's voice. I turned back around and went into the living room. I flicked on the light, but the room was too blurry. I said, "Who was that?" "Mom?" No answer. I had to go get my glasses from my room if I wanted to see. I made my way to my nightstand and grabbed my glasses, and I went back out to the living room. I was the only breathing soul in here. My apartment isn't huge. It's just the kitchen and living room, which are one space, then my bedroom and a bathroom. Not many places to look and not many places to hide. But there also shouldn't have been anyone in my apartment. I called my mom, just to confirm she wasn't here, and I apparently woke her up with my phone call, so I went to bed. It wasn't as easy to fall asleep this time, because now all I was thinking about was how I just heard a voice say my name. It was when I was finally seemingly starting to fall asleep that I heard a female voice say my name again from inside the bedroom. I flipped over on my back and looked across the room. All I could see was this big, tall, human-shaped mass a few feet in front of my bed. I could see the long hair of a woman. I could barely see what I must have imagined to be distorted facial features, and let out a harrowing scream as I fumbled for the light switch or my glasses. I knocked over the lamp as I finally found the switch to turn it on, and now there was nothing at the end of my bed. I put on my glasses and searched every nook and cranny of the room under the bed, the closets, and the dresser. Then I checked the rest of the apartment. I can say matter-of-factly that there was no one but me in this apartment. I felt like I was losing my mind. The only way I managed to go to sleep that night in that apartment was convincing myself I had hallucinated these things because of my lack of sleep or overworking myself. When I tell people about this, I downplay it, saying, yeah, I hallucinated this one time. I don't go into detail about how real it all was, because then some people get doubtful or think I was on drugs. It was without a doubt the scariest, most surreal moment of my life,